Good evening, gamers. I'm Gregory. This is 1 in 20 D&D, and welcome to DnDaily number 78. Hey, if you're a first-timer here and haven't stopped by before, and you're interested in D&D and other role-playing games or tabletop games, and you want to hear about news and reviews as well as insights into the gameplay, tips and tricks for leveling up your game as a player and a DM, and just general mayhem and madness all around gaming and such, then please do remember to subscribe. That is what you will be getting in these DnDaily updates. Today I'm going to, of course, give you the quick rundown and the report on the Critical Role Kickstarter. They are currently at $9.1 million with over 60 and climbing with over 67,000 backers. Absolutely astounding. And even though they've sort of blown past their final stretch goal of 8.8 million, I don't know if they'll add another stretch goal. I don't think they will at this point, but in a way, there seems like there's this soft goal of like, are they going to make it to $10 million for this Kickstarter? I mean, that would be pretty cool. So let's see what happens over the next 11 days. And I will, of course, keep you updated. In the meantime, let me talk real quickly. First of all, I'm going to give a quick thank you and shout out to Dave and Reed, who have both been amazing over the last couple days in the comments, and we've been having these fascinating conversation. I really am grateful, you guys. It's been interesting. It's struck a lot of different thoughts and ideas in my mind about like what I'm talking about here, and I genuinely appreciate the feedback. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to think about, so Dave brought up that one of the popular games he plays is Cyberpunk, and I've mentioned it on occasion in some of these other D&Dailies, and I have played it on occasion, but only a couple times. I've only had the chance to play it maybe 2 or 3 times at most over the years, although I really dig it. I think it's a super fun setting. I love the kind of, I've always been drawn to the sort of post-apocalyptic theme and that kind of stuff. So like Mad Max is right up my alley and that kind of thing. And Cyberpunk, if you're not familiar with it, if you've seen the movies Blade Runner, that's the 2 Blade Runner movies now, I should say, that gives you a little bit idea of it. If you add in the Tron movies, where there's like this idea of like going into the net, or even to some degree, I suppose, like Lawnmower Man or Max Headroom, those kind of things on a small level, that each one of those sort of contributes to this genre where you're in this far future, what's it called? Like 2080 something, or 2080-ish, I think. Because I think they have a new video game, and I want to say it's 2087. I might be wrong with the number, so don't quote me on that. I should have looked it up, but I didn't think about it until this very moment. Irregardless, the point being, it's this near future, post-apocalyptic sort of. They're not really post-apocalyptic in the way that, like, say, Car Wars kind of is. This is more like the culture has sort of evolved and devolved at the same time. So you have, like, high technology where like you have like robotic arms and power suits and like integrated musculature and this kind of thing, and ocular implants to give you like laser focus eyes and that kind of thing, and you have like data chips for memory storage, but you can also like literally plug into the internet. Now there's another game called Shadowrun that you may be familiar with, and again, in a nutshell, the basic difference between Shadowrun and Cyberpunk, if you're not familiar, is that where Cyberpunk is sort of, let's say, real-world-esque, Shadowrun is the fantasy version, essentially, of Cyberpunk. Essentially. There's slightly different rule systems and all that kind of thing. But Shadowrun is another sort of dystopian future. That's probably a better way to say it than post-apocalyptic. It's more that's more it. This dystopian future of like, what if trolls and orcs and elves and dwarves actually started living amongst us again, and dragons were reawakened and that kind of thing. So that's what Shadowrun sort of does. And then Cyberpunk is very much more like there's no magic, there's none of that. It's just straight technology. So there's guns and knives and swords and axes and guns and guns and guns. And you better have body armor or you're toast. And include a helmet and so forth and all that. And so one of the things that's really powerful about Cyberpunk, and I was just actually expressing with Brett, my DMGM, he one of the things he feels like Cyberpunk did really well is create this level of tension. Because, like, when you play a game like Dungeons and Dragons, you have hit points, and even though there's always the threat that your character might die, it can happen, and it does. In a game like Cyberpunk, like, straight up, you could die at any second, even if you're, like, really powerful, really wealthy, really connected, you've been playing for a while. It's like, you get a headshot or something like that, it can happen. And overwhelming odds are a possibility and this kind of stuff. So Cyberpunk has this tension level to where it's like the threat levels are much higher, it seems. Now, sadly, I have never played Shadowrun. I might even share you. I have the OG, like, first edition, I believe, Shadowrun book, the manual, and I never got to play it. I got it, and I was like, this looks cool, let's do this. And then I was, like, looking at how to do characters and all that. Again, when I was a younger guy, wasn't really interested in running games. Always wanted to be a player in the game, and didn't have the itch or the desire, or frankly, didn't think I had the skill, to be honest, to run a game. And so I never got a chance to play Shadowrun all these years, right? So one of these days, eventually, I really want to get around to getting into a game of Shadowrun and giving it a run, see how it goes. Cyberpunk I love, and Brett has done his own. So one of the things that Brett's really, really good at is tweaking rules to make them play a little faster and easier and more logically, and hopefully, ideally, more fun. At least for us, our game group tends to be a very kind of like combat focused game group. We do a little bit of role playing. We love puzzles and exploration kind of stuff, but mixed in with the exploration and the puzzles, and we just like to get into combat stuff, because that's what it's not so much hack and slash per se, but it's kind of like hack and slash. That's just the way we've been for countless years. So and I love now, again, as an adult now, I absolutely love role playing, so I'm far more into that and try to incorporate more of that in the games I'm running. But yeah, Cyberpunk, man, it's such a cool game and such a fun, it's a good system, I think. I mean, I have a small experience with it, but it seemed cool. Some areas were clunky and illogical, but you know what? Every game system has some of that, where the rules are just like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing. Remember, I'm going to say it now a little early. It's your game. Play your way. So, make some house rules. If you don't like a rule, change it, bend it, break it. That's what you can do when you're playing a role-playing game. Okay? Unless you're in a tournament, or unless you're playing like Adventures League for D&D or something like that, where there's actually rules about how the game is got to be played, then you kind of have to follow the rules. If you're at a convention, you kind of have to follow the rules, right? But if you're just a game group having fun, even if you're playing in a game shop, you can still make up house rules and add those, incorporate those. And if you're the DM, I mean, you can waive rules anytime you want, right? I mean, you just say like, yeah, that's kind of how it works, but let's say in this case it's not going to work that way. So that's what's kind of fun about gaming, I think, about being spontaneous, being in the moment, and making the story the most important part of what you're doing. That being said, I think I need to play some Cyberpunk again. It's been a while, so gosh, I need to find me a game. So Dave, thanks for bringing that up. I hope you guys have a blast in your Cyberpunk games. I'd love to hear some of those tales. You can always tell me all about it in the comments below the videos. Friends, I hope to see you at a table someday. Until then, keep rolling 20s or 6s, because 6s are great if you're playing like Car Wars and Cyberpunk and other games like that. 6s are good too. So hey, like, roll the maximum die. And remember, it's your game. Play your way.